Happy holidays. I'm Shane Colwell, president of the York County Young Democrats, here with Samantha Fulham, our vice president. And our guest today is the candidate for lieutenant governor, Ms. Madeline Dean. She's currently the representative in the PA House for the 153rd District. And we're just going to dive right into with our standard question of what does being a Democrat mean to you?
Oh, well, first, Samantha and Shane, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you and to learn of your work and the interest in this area among young Democrats. What I think being a Democrat means is standing for things, standing for values that matter for the common good, for the common man, and often for the vulnerable. Too often we see special interest press a heavy hand on the scales of legislation and or justice. And what I've enjoyed being is a Democrat who cares about making sure kids are educated, making sure there are good paying jobs, making sure there's ethical government, making sure we're growing the economy, balancing budgets, and then, as I said, making sure we are looking after the poor, looking after the vulnerable, attacking the problems that our society faces. And I have a feeling we're going to talk about some of the issues I care very, very deeply about. But it is I think being a Democrat is it's in my DNA, and it is a set of values that talks about people and the common good.
I totally agree with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a middle-aged woman who is a mother of 3 grown sons. I'm married to a fantastic man, PJ Canan, for 30-some years. We have a fantastic granddaughter who was 6 years old. And in terms of a career path, I was first, as a young woman, I was a practicing lawyer. And then I was a trial lawyer in Philadelphia. And then as I started to have children, and my husband's job is quite busy as well, I realized I wanted to be more with the children. So I came back to the suburbs and was raising little boys, opened a little part-time law firm with 2 other women, and then had the opportunity to teach at LaSalle University and teach something I love, which is writing. And so for 10 years I taught at LaSalle University and had a ball with young people and middle-aged people claiming their education. And I had the chance to talk about what I'm sure is the most important subject to teach, which is good writing and good communication, because it'll take you anywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
But I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be in public service. I met my husband when I was 18 and he was 19, and we worked together on a Joe Hoffel re-election campaign.
Yeah.
Way back in 1978. So I'm dating myself terrifically. But it was fun. I thought politics was good for me. I met this wonderful man, and the legacy is we're happily married with kids and a granddaughter. But I got the bug then.
Yeah.
My family was engaged in politics and current events, but then becoming an elected committee woman at such a young age, working on campaigns, I knew I would want to get to public service. So what I wound up doing after 50 was going back to school. I thought I should retool myself, so I went to Fell School of Government and took a couple of courses, and with that was asked to run for office. I ran for township commissioner, and then when my state house opened up, when Josh Shapiro went on to county government before becoming attorney general, I threw my hat in the ring to become state representative, and that was 2012, and I won.
Awesome.
It's very inspiring.
Oh,
just like to have
thank
that
you.
bug and then have it carry you all the way to this point.
Yeah.
So
It was a meandering path,
Yeah.
but I think it was actually great preparation for
yeah,
what I'm doing
absolutely.
today.
Yeah.
You've worked in all different, sectors.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So my next question for you was, well, you kind of answered that, but was running for an elected office that you always knew at that point you wanted to eventually?
I did, as I say, as
Yeah.
a young person. And I got the bug again, I knew I needed to wait.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure exactly what I was waiting for, but part of it was to gather life experience. And the other was to have at a time that it worked for my family.
Yeah.
People have to make different choices. And so in my 30s, I got the bug again, but realized my 3 little boys were a little busier than would have been positive for, I thought, them at the time,
Yeah.
for me to be trying to campaign and race out to Harrisburg. And so, it was something that was always in me, but I thought the other things suited me well too, because
Yeah.
they're about advocating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you pick lieutenant governor?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think 5 years experience in the House
Mhm.
is one reason. I'm on the Appropriations Committee and Judiciary, Finance, and some others. But appropriations in particular teaches you exactly how government works and how it doesn't work.
Yeah.
How we fail to budget well and on time and in a balanced way. And so I always tell everybody I love my public service, but with the past few election cycles, you might imagine that I'm incredibly frustrated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm a Democrat,
I think we all are.
deeply in the minority. And I will say, probably the fall of 2016, the results of that election at first thoroughly depressed me and still can get you down.
Okay.
But it also is motivating.
Yes.
I think you see that in your own experiences.
Yes, absolutely.
It made me say that we can't take this.
Yep.
So I ran, for example, for a leadership position in our caucus. I ran for Southeast Delegation Chair, really out of the failure of that election. I thought, I have to step up. I have to do more.
Yeah.
And so I was elected Southeast Delegation Chair, which is the whole lower quadrant here, 9 counties wide, 22 members of our caucus. But to the point of why Lieutenant Governor, it occurred to me, maybe through the summer, that that is an extraordinarily important position that has been squandered.
Yeah.
And I could be really effective at it. The very things I care about, the democratic values I care about, the work that I've been doing in the House, I'd like to do in a bigger way. I want to expand my public service, not shrink it. And I think in that position, with the right governor, I could be working on the issues I care about.
Absolutely. So my next question for you, we kind of touched on this already too. How do you feel your professional career has really shaped you to take on this position, this higher elected office?
You know, I think it's a weaving of my personal life and my professional career.
Yeah.
So being a practicing lawyer as a young person, going to law school, first of all, is, I think, very instructive. And I love the learning and the thinking as you study law. And then applying that to clients and advocating on their behalf. I really liked that. The relationships you build, the protections you try to offer people, or the damages you get them if they have been harmed. You know,
Yeah.
try to make them whole in some way. So I loved being an advocate. Then to go into teaching, I felt like I was an advocate all over again.
Yeah.
You know, advocating for these young people claiming their education. And teaching writing made me a better writer. And so I think all of that is important in the work I do now. We've got to persuade people.
Yeah.
And so,
And inform people too at the same time.
exactly. And dig in and
Yeah.
try to understand.
Why
we
they
don't,
feel
we
the way
don't
they
know
do.
everything. We're hit with so many issues.
Yeah, you can't be an expert at everything, but you have to be willing to do the work to be the most informed that you can be.
Yeah. So I think my meandering career path, and then you sort of dovetail that into my personal life, where I got the chance to, raise 3 little boys and advocate for them, care about them getting their best education and getting into careers and jobs that were going to feel worthwhile.
Yeah.
I think those 2 things together were a real good fit, unplanned, but a good fit for running for a legislative office.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What is one issue that you feel really strongly about and would like to change?
Well, I'm really glad you asked that, and sort of I was signaling it maybe in the very beginning of our conversation. The most pressing issue facing Pennsylvania is the opioid epidemic.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every
It's
day.
every day. Last year, the numbers nationwide were 64,000 people died of overdose. In Pennsylvania last year, it was 4,642 people. That is 13 people a day. Every day. Every single day. And of course, that sounds like numbers and cold statistics. If you know one person, you know the devastation of this.
We've
And
lost several classmates in just a few
Yeah.
years, so it's just devastating.
It's devastating. I learned this week of just a classmate of my eldest son died in the last 2 months, and I had not known it. It is rocking families, devastating communities, and so I've been fighting as a member of the legislature for more money to do whatever we can to shine a bright light on addiction and the fact that it is disease.
Yes.
We would not deny somebody treatment for diabetes or for cancer, and yet people struggle to get beds, for recovery, struggle to have coverage through their insurance. It is a disease that is killing people in every quadrant. People used to think of an addict
From it.
Yeah.
as a stereotype. nobody's exempt.
Yeah. Right.
No gender, no color, no economic status, no cultural status, nothing. So I am certain that is the biggest issue facing Pennsylvania and the country. There's certainly so many other important ones that I work on, like gun violence, but the numbers there are just staggering. And what it does to devastate a family and then a community.
Yeah.
A friend of mine used to say that a family is like a mobile. You know what a mobile looks like?
Yeah.
And when one person swings out, the whole mobile goes with them to try to help recoup that person.
So
And
true.
we're seeing it in our community. We're a single person, whether it's a young person who's struggling with addiction, or a middle-aged mother or father struggling with addiction, or an elderly person. It takes the whole family and therefore the whole community with them. So to me, that's the number one issue facing us.
Yeah.
So how would you lead differently than our current Lieutenant Governor, Mike Stack?
I would lead.
Yeah.
And that sounds a little flip,
No, I
but
understand.
I don't mean it fliply.
Yeah.
I actually sat down and had the opportunity to talk to the Governor Wolf, about this. And I wanted to signal to him my interest in running. And he asked a similar question: what would you do? Why would you run, and
Yeah.
what would you do? And I would lead. I'm in it for the work. I'm not in this as a stepping stone to some other office. I'm not in it for perks. I actually want to work on issues of substance. I would lead, I hope, in the same way that people notice I'm leading now. When I got elected, I made a choice to make sure that I didn't take any extra dollars. So I put all of my expenses online so everybody can see what I'm claiming every month. I don't take a per diem. I take only actual expenses, and only some of them. And so, I don't take gifts. It's about the work.
Yeah. The passion.
It's passion for the work. Exactly right. You couldn't do this otherwise.
No, absolutely not. It would be draining.
Yeah.
And I see that as a trend now with the transparency of finances. Like, Senator Gillibrand, a lot of people are being more transparent. And
Mhm.
I think the more transparent our party is,
Mhm.
it'll just shed a spotlight on how not transparent the other party has been.
Right. I think people are owed accountability from
Absolutely.
their elected office.
Yeah.
That's what they're there for.
And there's such a, there's a sad cynicism about elective office. There shouldn't be. It's one of the highest callings. But we have to meet that calling by
Yeah.
being accountable.
Absolutely.
Is there a person that you credit for kind of inspiring you to take this path of leadership?
I don't know if either of them would know it. My late father, he was the youngest of 7 children, so big, bustling family, very, very busy. But he was a very leading figure in terms of just doing things right,
Yeah.
working hard, and always doing the right thing. And the second person would be a more public person. I'm a child of the 60s, and on my 9th birthday, Bobby Kennedy died. He was shot on June the 5th, and I remember going to bed that night. My parents were devastated, and I was only 8, turning 9, and I knew what an important person this was. And I woke up that morning thinking, I wonder, did he survive? And he did not. But what I admired was reading and learning more about him. I knew as a young girl he was an impressive figure, but what I love is the way his public service transformed. Unfortunately, it was cut so very short, but it transformed. And the Kennedys themselves, they cared about the poor. They didn't mind talking about the poor.
Yeah.
We don't say those words much anymore.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're afraid to talk about poorism. There
is
are
very
people
sad, yeah.
who are poor, and lifting up those who were in need.
Yeah.
So I would say Bobby Kennedy, the way he really went out and struck out on issues of civil rights and poverty, and lifting up people in their education and their work life and their family life. So Kennedy I'm reading the recent book that's out on him to learn more about him.
Yeah. Empowering people who are in unfortunate circumstances a lot better than just disregarding the circumstances altogether.
That's right. Fighting for them.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. So, what is one piece of advice that you would like to offer to the millennial generation?
Oh, Me?
Yes,
Give you advice?
Yes.
Oh, that sounds so motherly. So I'm full of advice. My boys will tell you. I feel like I don't even have to offer people like you advice.
We still need advice.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. I'm so capable, and my colleague here, Chris, very, very capable. Do exactly what you're doing, which is be engaged.
Yeah.
Be thinking about the issues. Resist the temptation, which we all feel, myself included, to default to a known answer. Make sure you stay open. Make sure that you don't always know the answer.
Yeah.
Because we've become so polarized, it's easy for any of us to sort of rail at the TV and rail at the news and say, I know the right way, and it's completely opposite. That isn't it.
Yeah.
The answer is to be thoughtful, to be caring about other people, and my final piece of advice would be do work that you love. You know, get into something that you absolutely love, because it will lift you through your career, and you won't feel like you're working so much.
Yeah.
So that's my simple advice.
Thank you.
So speaking of being engaged, if young people want to get involved in your campaign, how can they do that?
Oh, I would love them to. They can contact us.
Okay.
I have a website, Madeline Dean for Lieutenant Governor.
I love it, Mad for PA.
How about that?
I love it. It's
I
so,
came up with that.
It's
Doesn't
brilliant.
it work
Yeah.
on several levels?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just mad for PA.
I love it.
So, Chris, what do we do? Hashtags, or how do we say that?
Madforpa.com.
Thank you, madforpa.com. Okay, devices, I don't know technology. Yeah, madforpa.com. You can email us. We're on Twitter. What else are we on?
Everything.
Everything. We're on every social media. And one of the best things will be young people being involved. That's,
Absolutely.
you know, as I said, I loved being a teacher, and I love working with young people. I learn a lot from young people, so I'd love it if people signed up.
Yeah.
Go to our website.
Absolutely.
Go to our website.
Yeah, we'll have that linked on this clip then, and I think that's all we had. But we'll be bringing you back if you're, if you have a
Invite me back?
Absolutely.
I enjoy it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
No
Thank you.
problem.